And before we go any further, as it is customary for us to first pay homage to the Buddha, so I thought maybe we'll do it in a way that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, the homage to the Buddha from the Pali tradition, since I suspect many of you probably know that by heart. So we'll just do that. And if you don't know what that is, or how to say it, doesn't matter. Just reflect on the qualities of Buddha, what the attainment of Buddha means, and then direct this feeling of respect and homage to that ideal of being awakened, which is what Buddha means. It means someone who is awakened, someone who is free from confusion. Yeah? So we'll repeat this homage 3 times together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So it is said that one of the ways of deciding whether we are Buddhist or not, meaning whether we are practitioners of the Dharma, is whether we have taken refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha or not. And so that is the reason why we always start by paying homage to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And so even if the Dharma is not explicitly addressed, as in this case, we seemingly only said words of homage to Buddha. We know that a Buddha is the result of having fully actualized the Dharma, having fully practiced the Dharma in terms of the Dharma as words, and the Dharmas as ideas, and the Dharma as teachings, having applied that Dharma, then successfully realizing Dharma as realizing reality as it is. So the 2 aspects of Dharma. In the aspects of words, it said there are 12 different categories of Dharma, which is 12 genres of writings that is contained within the Dharma. And then more importantly, Dharma as that which is. And so through relying on the first, we arrive at the second. And that's what makes a Buddha a Buddha. So in paying homage to the Buddha, we're also paying homage then to the Dharma. Then along the way, before Buddhas become Buddhas, they relied also on Sangha. They themselves at some point also became Sangha. Sangha here, again, in 2 aspects. In the first aspect is the monastic order, which is the relative aspect. And the monastic order stands as basically teachers of the Dharma. But then the other aspect of Sangha is not so much the monastic order, but all those individuals that have realized to a particular level the Dharma, so that they become irreversible. That means they don't fall back anymore into states of confusion. Their movement towards the state of awakening has gotten to a certain point that they don't backslide anymore. Then they become the noble Sangha. And so Buddhists at some point then must have been the noble Sangha. And so when we pay homage to the Buddha, we're also paying homage to the Sangha. And so these are the three jewels: Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. There's actually some discussion as to, of these three, which is the true refuge of the three. Interestingly, nobody spends any time talking about the Sangha being the most true of the three. The debate is usually between two. One says it's Buddhist, and one says it's Dharma. So those who say that Dharma is the true refuge, in which the other two are not as important. Of course, all three are, but if you put a gun to a Buddhist and ask which is the one that you have to choose, then they say you have to choose Dharma, according to some. Because they say that it is through Dharma that you clarify your confusion. So without Dharma, they say, it's pointless. But then there are some that will say, actually, it's Buddha that is the true refuge, and not Dharma. And there, the reasoning is that unless the Dharma is realized within the context of an individual, then it's just theory. It's just a concept. No matter how great it is, it remains a concept. It remains an abstract that you are aiming for. But unless it has been realized, then it's not of much use. Even if it is the truth with a capital T, what are you going to do with that if that's not realized within your own mind? And so they say, then Buddha is the true refuge. So then you might be tempted to ask me the question, then which is the true refuge? It doesn't really matter, because any further argument along those lines is just a waste of time. Yeah? More important than finally, which is more real, is I feel that we get the reasoning that is behind those two positions. Yeah? Then sometimes Dharma is more important. Sometimes Buddha is more important. From another perspective, I'm sure you could say, well, Sangha is more important. Because without Sangha, in the sense of the noble Sangha and the monastic Sangha, then we probably won't have anyone to guide us along the way, right? And so sometimes Sangha is most important. Yeah. So I think you will see that if I'm being consistent, my approach to the material, usually I am not that interested in kind of trying to decide which is more true than which. I think it's beside the point. It says that Buddha's taught 84,000 dharmas, which means lots, yeah. And all 84,000 dharmas are part and parcel of the path to awakening. So if we understand that, then there is really not much point in arguing, which is more important than which, because all 84,000 is inseparable and all 84,000 were given for the purpose of guiding us. So anyway, the title, the title was something to do with radical compassion, I think. Radical compassion for a challenging world. That's okay. I don't need the radical compassion for a challenging world. The title of this talk, this series of talks, it's in part inspired by. I don't know if inspired is a good word to use in this context. More, I guess, in response to, I think, a general perception that has been made worse by things like Facebook and other places like that, that we are living in a very challenging time. Things are getting more and more sticky. Things are getting more and more difficult. Seems like there are more planes disappearing in midair. Seems like there's more earth shaking everywhere. Seems like, there's more, all whatever negative thing that you can imagine, there's more of that happening these days. So, true or not, I'm not sure. It doesn't matter, right? What matters here is like there's a perception that we're living in challenging times, right? So challenging that sometimes even T-shirts of certain colors mean certain things that you can wear on certain days and you cannot wear on certain other days. So it's getting very complicated. It's getting really challenging. So there's a perception that we now live in a challenging world, in a challenging time, right? So what are we doing? What are we to do in the face of these challenging times? So then, the best answer to that question is compassion. Compassion. How does this, what kind of compassion are we talking about? Yeah, what kind of compassion are we talking about? I guess I decided to put the word radical here because I think compassion, the word itself, sometimes gives a connotation of something kind of sweet, gentle, soft. Here I decided to use the word radical because in some ways, if you think the way Buddha taught about compassion, it's quite radical and counterintuitive. So what you're going to hear over these 4 classes, these 4 evenings, you should kind of expect that when you first hear about it, you're going to probably have a reaction that is not entirely comfortable, that is going to kind of cause some stress or some questioning, like, wait, really? I have to do that? I mean, how? Because I think sometimes we think that Dharma practice needs to be kind of quiet, serene, calming, and not very agitating. Of course, that's true to some degree. But Buddha's way of talking about compassion there is really an aspect of it which is unsettling, which is somewhat unsettling, which is somewhat uncomfortable, which puts us on the spot. And we don't naturally like to be put on the spot. We like our religion, we like our spirituality, we like our religious leaders, we like our teachers to only say nice things to us. Things that make us all feel very comfortable, things that make us feel very encouraged, things that basically doesn't embarrass us and make it difficult. Especially, we say, oh, these are difficult times. These are challenging times. Already my work is so stressful. I'm not going to come to the temple to be further stressed by what they're going to say to me. So please, only say nice things. Okay? Only say things that kind of keep the status quo going. Because, stability is very good. I think culturally, we have been kind of trained to like that. Not just that, maybe naturally, biologically, naturally, we are adverse to things that are unsettling, but also culturally, I think we have been somewhat indoctrinated into considering things that are stable, things that are not very provocative, things that are very soothing to be true. Right? So as a culture, anytime a tyrant wants to control the people, it will say, oh, no, you have to do this. Because to do anything else is just going to cause chaos. To do anything is just going to cause disunity. So unity, stability, all of that, of course we all want that. But that can also make us very complacent. Now I'm not talking about political complacency, if you think that's what I'm talking about. It's being complacent with this burning house. It's complacency with this burning house that the Buddha called samsara. In the chapter 2 of the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha talks about the chapter on the parables. Buddha compared this world to a house that is burning. Usually in that story, the emphasis is on how the Buddha also provided ways of enticing us out of the house. So that's one very common kind of emphasis. But I want to emphasize some other thing, which is the part about the house that is burning. See, this house is a very big house. It's said in the Lotus Sutra that it belonged to a very rich merchant who has gone off to conduct business and left his children in the house. So this house is said to be a great mansion, a great mansion that this merchant owned. Maybe think about it as having 200 rooms. And what happens when you have such a great building, what happens when you have such a great big mansion, is that it could be on fire and you could still go on with business as usual, pretending that the house is not on fire. So then all you do is you move from room to room to room. You see some smoke coming here, you say, okay, let's move to another room. You see some smoke coming there, you're like, okay, let's move to another room. And so we just go from room to room to room to room to room, hoping that if you move around enough, somehow the fire is not going to get you. But hello, it's a burning house. Eventually you're going to run out of rooms to move into and out of, and you will go up in flames with the house. Okay? So that's how we kind of deal with this state of confusion that we call samsara. Samsara is not a place. Samsara is a state of existence. It's a way of being in the world. Sometimes we say, this world is samsara. This world is not samsara. The way we are in the world is samsara. So in the same way that the way that Buddhists are in the world, they are not in samsara. Yeah? So samsara is a state of being, a state of existing. So this state of existence has a way to make us very comfortable, hoping that we will not notice that it's on fire. Because it likes its tenants, us. So we just go about improving samsara. So then Buddha gave these teachings for us to be free from samsara. And to be free from samsara is quite a task, of course, and not so easily achieved. So then some of us think, oh my gosh, to be free from samsara is so difficult. Well, I'll just enjoy samsara. Actually, that's a pretty good plan. Yeah, that's a pretty good plan. Don't you think so? If you don't think so, it might be in part because you say, or not, you're thinking, wait a minute, the party line says you're not supposed to enjoy samsara, so I'm not going to admit, that I'm just going to enjoy samsara. Actually, there's no, Buddha never said, don't enjoy samsara. But what Buddha did say is, it's actually impossible to enjoy samsara. But who knows, maybe you have found a way to enjoy it, So if you have, then good for you, right? Just enjoy it, don't worry about it. Yeah. But if you come to a point where it's not possible to enjoy it anymore, then quite naturally, you'll turn to wanting to find a way out. Wanting to find a way out is also not that easy. Sometimes the wanting itself is why you can't get out. So there's a funny story. It's funny, but there's a lot of truth to it. There's a funny story in the Zen tradition. A new student comes to the teacher and says, so I really, really want to be enlightened as fast as possible. A teacher looked at him and said, oh, really? He said, oh yes, really. Then he said to the teacher, if I work really hard, how long would it take for me to be enlightened? A teacher said, 10 years. Then the student said, well, what if I work really, 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 really hard? How long would that take? He said, probably 20 years. Probably 20 years. Yeah, it's 20 years because the wanting itself, right? The wanting itself is going to get in the way of you arriving. Yeah, so that's one of the paradoxes of the path. It's like you want to be out, but if your want exceeds your ability to find an exit, then that wanting adds to the confusion. It's sort of like when you are in a state of panic because you suddenly see that, oh my gosh, this house is really on fire. Sometimes the panic makes it impossible to find the key to get out. Right? It makes it impossible because we're so overwhelmed. We're so overwhelmed by the difficulties and the challenges that we see around us. Then we become frozen. We become stuck. Then we don't see any possibility of escape from this burning house. So then we get stuck in samsara, and even deeper and even harder and even more confused. So it becomes really difficult. But all these difficulties, all these challenges, so let us say we put aside this wanting to be enlightened, because it's going to take at least 10 years. And if you try very hard, then it will take 20 years. If you don't try at all, it will take forever. Yeah. But let's just put all of that aside and said, well, I don't know this thing about being enlightened, this thing about being awakened, this thing about being Buddha. I don't know about that. Okay, let's put that aside. Putting that aside, simply kind of looking around and see and say, well, is being alive these days feels really challenging, feels really tough, difficult. If you feel that that could be true, then maybe you want to stay for the rest of this talk. If you feel that it is not true, don't waste your time. You should go home now. Because everything is fine for you, apparently. Then, don't waste your time. Human life is precious. Every minute, a little bit of it is gone. So go maximize your enjoyment of samsara. But if you have a suspicion that, these are challenging times, and so in the face of these challenges, what should I do? Here we say, practice radical compassion. Practice compassion that makes no sense. That's why it's radical. It makes no sense. There is a story in some Mahayana traditions. They like to make fun of the Arhat disciples of the Buddha. Then it caused, the non-Mahayana people very upset. How can you make fun of the Buddha's disciples? Again, it's beside the point. But they like to tell a story. They said once upon a time, many, many lifetimes ago, there was this person that eventually became Shariputra. Shariputra, as we know, was one of the great disciples of the historical Buddha. And it said that he achieved the state of arhat. But this story says that many, many, many lifetimes ago, he was actually inspired to take the vow to become a Buddha, which meant working very, 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 very hard. Therefore, it will take a long time, right? So it said that he was inspired. So he took the vow. He said, I'm going to become a Buddha, because a Buddha can bring the most benefit to the most number of beings. So I'm going to do that, right? So it's said that not long after he generated the great Bodhi vow, then some Brahmin decided to come test him to see how well or how serious he is in his determination to become Buddha. So there are two versions to this story. The first version has it that this Brahmin that doesn't have any eyes came to him and say, hey, do you have two eyes? Not because he didn't have any eyes, so he couldn't see. So asked Shariputra, hey, do you have two eyes? Shariputra said, yeah, I do. So this Brahmin then said, could you spare me one? So Shariputra is thinking, oh, he doesn't have any eyes. He can't see. So maybe if I give him my eye, he can find a surgeon, a doctor, or a magician that can restore one eye to him. So of course it's going to be a great sacrifice on my part. But if I can do that and give it to him, that will be very good. So poor Shariputra, gouged out one of his eyes and gave it to this guy. Then this guy took the eyeball and he threw it on the ground. Not only did he throw it on the ground, he stepped on it. So Shariputra, many, many lifetimes ago, I don't know what his name was, he said, why did you do that? This Brahmin said, I really like that sound, when you step on eyeballs. So at that point, Shariputra said, that's it. It's impossible to teach sentient beings. It's impossible to liberate sentient beings. Sentient beings are so unreasonable. Sentient beings are so ridiculous. He said, that's it. Forget it. I'm not going to be Buddha. I'm going to work on my own confusion, clear my own kleshas, and say, Tata, become Buddha. Become an arhat. So they say that's why Shariputra then became an arhat. The other version of this story, maybe it's even more ridiculous. It's basically a guy that comes to him, and this guy doesn't have any hands. So the guy said, hey, Shariputra, can you give me one of your hands? So again, he was thinking, oh yeah, maybe, if I give him one hand, then at least he'll have one hand. He'll find a doctor. So Shariputra, somehow, I don't know why Shariputra was walking around with a big knife, but apparently he had a big knife. Then he took the knife and he was going to cut his hand down. Then he thought, oh, if I cut left hand, not as useful as right hand. So he decided he's going to cut his right hand to give to this guy. So probably took longer for him to cut off his, right hand. More pain, So blood is squirting all over the place. So he cut down his right hand, and the right hand fell on the ground. So he picked up with his left hand, his only hand left, right? And he gave it to the guy. And the guy was absolutely furious. Why? Because the guy said, you're so rude. How can you give people a gift with your left hand? It's so rude. How can you give people things with your left hand? So Shariputra said, no, forget it. But you see, the Bodhisattva's vow of compassion is so ridiculous that even when met with such situations, such obviously challenging situations, you cannot give up. You cannot give up. Now, I don't think we necessarily need to worry too much about, should I become an arhat? Should I become a bodhisattva? Next life, whether you're human or chicha, we still don't know. Yeah, so no need to debate. Pointless. It's like some Buddhist favorite pastime is to debate these things. Yeah, Ajahn Chah has said, don't be an arhat, don't be a bodhisattva. To be anything is to be dukkha. Yeah, just don't be anything. So here, we're not even talking about, or at least I'm not interested in persuading you to choose, should I be an arhat, should I be a bodhisattva? I think those are pointless, those types of debates. But rather, again, how we're going to approach these material, how we're going to approach these things is to think in terms of, well, what is it saying to me, these stories? Yeah? And what are these teachings saying to me? What can I do with these teachings that can make me a better person? A saner person and a better person. That's all. Yeah. So this notion of compassion that is ridiculous, that makes no sense. It's counterintuitive. There's a line in the 4 great vows in the East Asian Mahayana tradition, China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, they all have these 4 lines. So the first line is, sentient beings are limitless, right? And then what? Sentient beings are limitless, then I blah blah blah. What? Sentient beings are limitless. I vow to what? Yeah, I vow to save them all, right? I mean, it sounds really great. Almost like each time you say that, you hear your theme song coming up in the background, right? If you're really inspired, right? Sentient beings are limitless. I vow to save them all. What you are actually saying is, I'm going to be ridiculous now. Because you just say they're limitless. If they're limitless, how can you finish? There's, by definition, limitless means no end. So not only is that ridiculous, the next line equally ridiculous, right? Kleshas are inexhaustible. I vow to completely extinguish them. Right? Dharma methods are innumerable, I vow to master all of them. Buddhahood is unsurpassed. I vow to basically achieving the unsurpassed. Achieve also means reaching. It also means surpassing. But you're going to now spend the rest of time surpassing the insurpassable, saving the limitless, putting a limit to limitless. Yet that's why they are called the four great vows. So you can substitute great with ridiculous. The four ridiculous vows. I'm not saying, therefore don't take them. Because they are ridiculous, therefore we take them. I didn't make this up. The Diamond Sutra says that. The Heart Sutra says that. Because there is no attainment of Buddhahood, therefore Buddhas attain Buddhahood with the Parnya Paramita. Yeah. So the great vehicle, the Mahayana, again, I'm not talking about like a sectarian tradition. I'm talking about approaching the problem with a great attitude, the great heart. Mahayana is to be understood in those terms, the great way. It's not about what you chant, what you eat, what you don't eat, what you wear, what you don't wear. I'm not talking about Mahayana in terms of a sectarian tradition. I'm talking about the attitude of the great heart. The heart has to be so great that it is willing to do that which is ridiculous and impossible. Can we do that? That's the radical compassion. Can we do that? See, most of us, we say, I'm not going to do anything unless I know it's possible. So we sit down and we count and we do our math, we do our spreadsheet, and then we say, in conclusion, possible. Okay, let me sign up. That's what we call the Hinayana. Yeah, again, it's not talking about some tradition. It's talking about another way of approaching a problem where you say, no, can't handle this problem. Okay, bye-bye. Right? You keep running away. You just say, not possible. Not possible because right now we can only see things through the very limited view that our situation allows us to see. So we're always inside the box. We're always inside the box, within the confines of the box, and therefore we will do what the box tells us we can or cannot do. Then we will always remain within this box. Then we will always be within this prison, this burning house. The great way is great because we throw away common sense, or what's normally considered common sense. We have to be willing to throw away common sense. You know, all the famous people who did great things, not because their grandfather left them a lot of money, but they made it work. They made it work because they know that they are not afraid of doing the impossible. They did not start off by saying, let me think of all the ways that this can fail. Let me think of all the ways why this doesn't make any sense. Now, of course, maybe, I think I would admit there are a lot of things that we need to be careful this way. Yeah, please don't go start a business tomorrow and then come back in a few months and blame me. I'm not responsible for your business decisions. I'm not responsible for your passing examination decisions. I'm somewhat responsible, apparently, for whether you become Buddhist or not. But because that takes 3 eons, so probably I won't see you until a lot later. In any case, you know, we didn't advertise this talk with any money-back guarantee. So no contract was signed. But we have to ask ourselves, am I willing to do the impossible? That's the radical compassion. Am I willing to suspend the ordinarily working, calculated little mind? Am I willing to give that up and have the great mind, the noble heart? Am I willing to do that? And if I'm able to do that or willing to do that, how is the world going to look like when I do that? What is it going to look like? What are problems going to look like once I take that approach? It is said that once you take that approach, once you're willing to give up your little box, once you're willing to give up your point of reference, your head is going to explode into 1,000 heads. Your hands are going to turn into 1,000 hands. You have seen that, right? There's a rather strange looking bodhisattva that we pray to with 1,000 heads and hands. I mean, it looks kind of normal, but if you really think about it, it's a little bit disturbing. Again, another image of the ridiculous. 1,000 heads and 1,000 hands. That's another symbol of the impossible. That's the kind of radical compassion that we're talking about. A compassion with no reference point. With no reference point at all. You leap into this way of being in the world. Now, what we're actually going to do for the rest of this evening and into the next 3 talks, we're actually going to be relying on a text that you have in your hands, known as the 7-point mind training in 7 points. Mind training in 7 points. So there are 7. The 7 points here is talking about 7 kind of chapters, and within each chapter, there are these points. There are these kind of pithy sayings. And it's through training the mind. And what mind are we training here? We are training this ridiculous mind, this body mind. And so you don't have to start off um, immediately having 1,000 heads and 1,000 hands. You start off by training very simply. So this is a tradition that the Tibetans call lojong. Lojong, lo means mind, means intelligence, means attitude. Zhong is to train. To train, to habituate, to acclimate, to train in the way that athletes train, to train in the way that musicians train, and train in the way that an artist trains. So there is a method to this madness, this Buddha way of madness. There is a method to train. There is a way to practice it. And they say that one of the most kind of succinct, one of the most thorough as well, not only succinct, but thorough explanations and teachings on training this mind, this Bodhi mind, this awakening mind, is through this mind training in 7 points. So now, before I continue on, let's see if you have any questions regarding what you just heard, any clarification or anything like that. I caught a cold when I got back from 40 hours of flying and hanging out at airports. Questions or comments? Oh yes, surely you have some. Anyone? Buddha says we have to practice perfection of patience. I can wait until 9:30. No? Satisfied? Okay, it's your last chance. This tradition called lojong, or mind training, of course, all of Buddha's teachings is to train the mind. There's no question about that. Yeah. So in that sense, you know, you might say lojong. It's like, well, the meaning of the word, you know, everything that Buddha taught is for training the mind, of course. But this particular way of training the mind is said to have been uniquely taught to the Tibetans by an Indian master, a Bengali master, by the name of Atisha, or Tibetans call him Atisha. His Sanskrit name, Atisha Sri Dipankara. Atisha Sri Dipankara lived in the 10th century in northern India, in what's today Bangladesh, that area. It is said that he had three main teachers that taught him teachings and practices centered around bodhicitta, the awakened mind, the attitude of a bodhisattva. He had three teachers that taught him that. Two of them were teachers in India. And the third teacher, whose Sanskrit name was Dharmakirti, that means the fame of Dharma. It is said that he came from this area, called Suvarnadipa. Dvipa is island, golden island. Suvarna Deepa or Suvarna Bhumi, it's unclear exactly where. Some people think it's in Sumatra, some think that it is Malaysia, some think it is where now is southern Thailand. But basically Suvarna Bhumi or Suvarna Deepa refers to this whole region. So there's no telling where Sirlingpa, basically the guy from Suvarna Bhumi, Suvarna Island or Golden Island. So Tibetans know him as Sirlingpa. So Sirlingpa was a native of this region. So it's said that Atisha heard of the fame of this master in this region, that he took the dangerous journey of getting on a merchant ship and took off and sailed for more than 6 months from the coast of India down to this area in order to seek out this teacher to teach him this approach to training the mind called lojong. In one of the earliest commentaries on the 7 points, they make an interesting observation. They say that among Atisha's teachers, all 3 of his teachers that specialize in generating the body mind, it is said that of the 3, Atisha considered Sirlingpa's influence to be the strongest on him. So basically a Malay Indonesian master had the greatest impact on Atisha's own training in bodhicitta. Even late in his life, when he was in Tibet, each time he talked about Sirlingpa, each time it said that he talked about or he thought of Sirlingpa, tears would come to his eyes. That was how moved he was by Dharmakirti or Sirlingpa. Now, what's interesting, or one of the interesting points about Sirlingpa, is that it's said that he was a great Buddhist teacher. However, his philosophical understanding was very similar to that of non-Buddhists. They actually say that.
And what they mean by that is they say that unlike the other two teachers, the Indian teachers, this Indonesian or Malaysian or Malay teacher was willing to begin or willing to allow you to believe that there is such a thing as self. He had no problem with people being attached to themselves. In fact, he will make the point that without self-grasping, without self-grasping, there is no way to become awakened. To become awakened, to become Buddha. Without self-grasping. So that is an unusual view. Well, normally we say, oh, no attachment, no attachment. Oh, you're Buddhist, you're attached. Ah, bad Buddhist. Well, we Buddhists like to, sometimes torture, sometimes make fun of each other. Oh, it's attachment, bad. Shalingpa says, attachment, oh, good. He said, yeah, good. He said, because you're attached to yourself, then you fear dukkha. If you don't have even a sense of self-interest, then you won't take dukkha seriously. And look around, I'm sure you know people like that. Yet they don't care enough. So if you talk to them or if you point out about dukkha manifesting in their lives, they say, it's just life, Anytime you go to Kopitiam, you meet your friends. Most of them are like that. If you want to say, Buddha say, life is all dukkha, They say, yeah, life what, dukkha what. Here, have another tea. Or another okao bit lah, then problem will go away. So they don't have enough self, interest. So many of us kind of live our lives like that. Then time comes to die, die lah, then finish it. So we don't even care. Then meanwhile, right, you're a good Buddhist, then you want to say, no attachment. Then they're like, oh, you talk like you're speaking Greek. I don't know what you're talking about. But apparently, Dharmakirti's way is to say, no. We have to begin with working with people's self-interest. Don't so quickly point out the faults of self-interest. In fact, work with people's self-interest. Accept that. Accept that every one of us, somewhere in there, have this self-interest. Bring that out and then use that as the starting point for this training. So Atisha in part said, the reason why Dharmakirti was so influential and so kind to him is that Dharmakirti used an approach that was seemingly in contradiction with Buddha's basic teachings. But in fact, it was a very skillful way to reach people who otherwise will not think seriously about these things. I said that was Dhammakirti or Sir Lingpa's skill. So Atisha came back, went to Southeast Asia, received the teachings, received the trainings, came back to India, still alive, which is quite fantastic. Then towards the end of his life, I think he was ready maybe in his late 60s or early 70s, that then some Tibetans came to India and said, could you come with us and come to Tibet? Because our king would like to restore Buddhism to Tibet. Tibet, once upon a time, in the 8th century, was a great Buddhist country, but in the last, this is like in the 10th century, they come to him and they said, but in the last century, Buddhism has declined in Tibet, and we heard, our king heard that you were a great master, so could you please come and help us, stabilize Buddhism in Tibet? Atisha said, no, I'm too old. I cannot go. Then it said that one night, Tara, this deity, appeared to him. It said that Atisha's main practice is Tara. And Tara appeared to him and said, it's true, if you go to Tibet, your life will be shortened because it's such an exhausting journey. You'll probably lose a year or two of your lifespan. However, if you do go to Tibet, your impact on the future will be so great. Yeah. So think about it. It will be so beneficial to so many beings if you went. So please think about it before you say no. So in the end, he agreed to go. So he went. And Tara was right too, because nobody in India remembered Atisha. Tibetans talk about Atisha today, and now Tibetans are telling the rest of the world about Atisha today. So if he didn't go, of course, in Suvarnabhumi, nobody remembers Atisha. Then in India, in Bharat, nobody remembers Atisha, but in Tibet. And now we hear about Atisha. Yeah, so he went. Then he died in Tibet eventually. He taught for more than 10 years in Tibet. Yeah. And it said that when he started teaching in Tibet, this tradition called lojong wasn't taught publicly to everyone. His public teachings, he taught his style of teaching, the public teachings that he gave, is in the style of what we now call lamrim, which many of you are familiar with that approach, which is a very systematic kind of stages of the path. And so that is said that Atisha taught everyone openly. Then this tradition of lojong, it said that he only taught those who were closest to him, that he knew very well. And he said to them, don't openly teach this. It's going to confuse people. But after so many generations, I don't remember how many he said, then after that, you can spread that. And I think it's not that Atisha didn't want to, but he understood that the foundational work needs to be done first. So something like Lamrim should be taught first, so that people have a clear understanding of the stages of the path. Then, lojong teachings will become very beneficial. In a way, you could think of the lojong teachings as the essential instructions. If these essential instructions were not given within a broader context of the path, then it could lead to kind of misinterpretations. But you can see also that in fact, these lines are not necessarily that spectacular, or that like philosophical. It's actually very simple, direct points. And I think that is in part why it wasn't taught at the beginning. If this was taught at the beginning, the Tibetans will think, oh, that Dharma, there's nothing about Dharma. It's saying very simple things. So what it means is that you have no idea of the profundity of these teachings unless you first understand the overall picture. Yeah? When you understand the overall picture, then these become very essential instructions. Yeah? So it said that eventually this was taught publicly. But then it also says, if you are practicing this, you should practice this secretly. So you cannot have a membership card that says lojong practitioner. You should practice this secretly so that obstacles don't arise. What kind of obstacles? Well, one of the lines in this practice say, may I give to everyone everything that is good, and may I take upon myself everything that is negative. When your co-workers find out, that's when obstacles come. Oh, that's what you're practicing these days. Okay, here's all the work. Yeah, the obstacles come very fast. So they say it's best not to tell anyone if you're practicing this. Yeah, so that means everyone that's here tonight, we're only coming here for information. We have not decided to practice or not. Yeah, so you cannot use this against anyone here. Even if you see them, you cannot tell anybody else that you saw them here, okay? That's the agreement here. Because you have to keep this a secret. You cannot tell people you're practicing this. Because if you tell, then it will be like Shariputra with the blind guy and the guy without hands. They will come and test you. And you will give up like in 2 minutes. Hand, even one finger, I'm not going to give. So if you look at your handout, the very first point has only one line. First, train in the preliminaries. It says that. The first point of these 7 points. So the 7 points are not equal. The first point in the 7 points is train in the preliminaries. So what are these preliminaries? Preliminaries here is talking about for our practice, we need to have a foundation. Without a proper foundation, we cannot build anything that will last, any significant period of time. So if you want it to be lasting, you need a strong foundation. That's what the preliminaries are talking about. More commonly, teachers today, when they talk about this first point, they will talk about this teaching known as the 4 mind reversals. The 4 things that you should contemplate, that you should consider deeply. And when you consider deeply, when you contemplate these 4, your mind begins to turn away. Turn away from what? Turn away from samsara. Turn away from the cycle of confusion. So these 4, the first one is reflecting on this precious human life that we have. Not just being human, biologically human, but also we have all the qualities and all the conditions and all the situations that are conducive to our awakening. We don't need to actually go into all the details here tonight, but suffice to say, if you're sitting here, then you have all of those conditions. Then just simply think, if you don't want to go read up, what are these, all these things, simply think, right? Let's say there's about 40 of us here tonight. How many people do you think live in the Bayan Baru area? What's the guess? Population? Huh? Of what? 50? Wait. Bayan Baru 10,000? More? Less? I don't know. More? Yeah, Bayan Baru is maybe 100,000. And there's 40 of us here. What is 40 out of 100,000? All you math people who know how to count. I can only count up to 10. Only 10 fingers. You just think of how few, right, is actually interested in ridiculous compassion. I don't know, if we didn't put the word radical and put ridiculous, I don't know if we'll get 40 or 400. It's hard to say, Ridiculous compassion for an insane world. But, like 40 out of 100,000, you're like, wow, this is really rare. Or we are really crazy. In any case, it's still very rare. Whether crazy or enlightened. It's still very rare. Then how about how many people in Penang? Yeah, so when you begin to reflect like this, you say, wow, this is pretty good. It's better than winning a lottery. And the point is not, therefore, the speaker is so special. Yeah, of course, special. But the point is more that when you begin to reflect like this, whatever you tend to be stressed over, whatever you tend to worry about, whatever you complain about your life, if you look at how amazing and how rare it is what you have, then you say, this is really meaningful. This is really precious. But then that which is so meaningful and precious can be lost so easily. And so they say, whether tomorrow or next life will come first, nobody knows. Yeah, think about it. Of course, mostly, we say, oh, next life, it'll come next life. But it might come sooner than tomorrow. And then we behave as if death only happens to other people. Right? We heard about someone with a sudden accident or death. We're like, oh, kasiyan. Oh, so bad. But mostly we think, oh yeah, it won't happen to me. But the person who died probably also never thought it will happen to them. And so we need to reflect on that as well. So these are some of the preliminaries that will turn our mind away from. Basically, what are we turning our minds or our attention away from? Distractions. Distractions. Things that keep us in a state of confusion. Things that want to keep us here so that this can continue to be very entertaining for everyone. Those are distractions. So one way to minimize distractions is to use such cognitive methods and processes to reason, kind of think about, how special it is what we have. But then how easily we could lose all of it. And then when we lose this life, there's no telling what's going to happen in the next life. Yeah, so that's one way of removing distractions. The second way, not an alternative, but the other way that we should also train in, it says first, train in the preliminaries. So the other preliminary, or the other type of preliminary foundation that we also need to train in is to have undistracted mind. Yeah, undistracted mind. That's the first one, is to be free from distractions in using reasoning and thinking and reflection. Then we cut off distractions. Here, it's cutting off distractions without thinking, without reflecting, but directly cutting off distractions. So this is what is known as, for those of you who are familiar with it, is the practice of shamatha, of calm abiding meditation.
So let's try this. So we're going to be sitting on our chairs. Yeah, so that's fine. So find a position of sitting where you are seated balanced. Yeah, whether you're seated with your legs down. If your legs are down, make sure that they're flat, flat on the floor. And you might want to move your seating position either a little bit further out or all the way back. Doesn't matter. You just choose a position that gives you the most kind of stability. Yeah? And both feet down on the ground and equal. You don't want to be lopsided. Yeah? So then both your hands put on your lap over your knees. You want your back, your spine to be erect and straight up. So what you can do is to elongate your spine, pull up as you're seated, holding a little bit of tension, and then let it slowly settle back down and release the tension. You can do that a few times so that your back is straight. It said that when the back is straight, then the mind is focused. If the back is slanting, sloping off, then awareness is scattered. Then your chest, you don't want it to sink in. You want to pull up and to the back so that your chest is out like a lion, they say. Again, pull back your chest. Pull back your chest a little, and then let it come back down. And pull back a little, holding a little. And then as you exhale, let it come down slowly. And generally, maintain an open, this open chest with your shoulders open apart. That prevents the mind from sinking. Then your neck should be a little bit crooked to the bent to the front. So you can do that by pulling in your chin. So they say that your head should be shaped like the head of a swan. Your lips are slightly touching each other. And your teeth, bottom and top, are resting. The top is resting on the bottom, and your tongue is on the roof of your mouth. Then your sight, it is said here, it is good, advisable, not to close your eyes, but rather let your gaze fall about one yoke, as in about 2 to 3 feet in front of you where you're seated, and just let your gaze kind of fall onto that spot. You're not focusing on the spot, simply your gaze, your sight should go onto that spot. So this posture, if you're seated on the floor especially with legs folded, this is said to be the posture of Vairochana. And Vairochana is the illuminator. That means when we have this posture well established, the mind by itself becomes radiant and illuminating. Yeah, so just feel the sensation of being seated in the position of Vairochana. Okay, so they say that if you are able to remain in this state for the length of time of 21 inhalation and exhalation, 21, so you can count. It might be good to count actually by, inhale, exhale, say 21. Inhale, exhale, 20. Inhale, exhale, 19. Inhale, exhale, 18. Count down until 1. If you're able to keep this for 21 counts without your attention going elsewhere, then it's said that just that much is already sufficient for this approach to training the mind. So it doesn't necessarily need a lot of focus, any jhana states or anything like that. Not saying that those things have no role to play. They are important in different forms of meditation training. But insofar as lojong practice, if you have the ability to maintain just 21 counts of focus, of undistracted attention, then you have the foundation to practice the rest. One of the advantages of the lojong tradition is precisely it doesn't require a lot of formal seated meditation. Of course, it's great if you have the time and the circumstances and the leisure and the interest to do longer, sustained, formal meditation. But if you are not able to do that, the lojong teachings and practices have very useful practices that you can apply and practice in your everyday life. Because after all, even all the sophisticated meditation of shamatha, vipassana, and this and that, all of that, how do you know they're working? You know they're working when you interact with the world. So lojong teachings is a good measure and a good method to see if you're training your mind or not. To say that somebody is such a great meditator because he or she can sit 7 days unmoving in a cave or in a room, it's not too different to say that, wow, that patient is so good at taking medicine that he can take medicine for 7 days undistracted. Like, wow, that's a lot of medicine to take. Yeah? Nobody would say that and say, wow, that guy is such an amazing medicine taker. But we talk about, oh, that's a great meditator. It's like, no, a great meditator is simply someone who takes his or her medication. And by taking the medication, more important than ability to take medication is to be restored back to health, to regain health. And in that sense, I would argue that the lojong teachings is directly talking about this good mental health. Good mental health. Ridiculous compassion, but good mental health. In what way?
That's why part 3, 4. Otherwise, if I show everything tonight, mana come back lagi. Nah, that's why movies have cliffhanger. Tong tong tong. Does he die or not die? Come back next week. In what way? One of my teachers, one time he joked, he said, and seriously too, he said, many people like to come and ask me, how well do you think my practice is going? Then he said, then they will start to tell him all kinds of experiences that they have. You know, oh, I feel a lot of heat in my body. I can this, that. How well you think I'm doing? You know. Then this teacher of mine, he said, if you really want to know how well you're doing, actually don't ask me. Ask your neighbor. Ask your neighbor. Ask your co-worker. Ask your husband or ask your wife. Don't ask your kids. They're ridiculous. Which is true, you know. Yeah, some neighbors will say, 20 years of meditating, still the same jerk. Then that means nothing much has happened, you know. You're just enjoying a lot of quiet time. Peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. Hey, why you park in my parking space? Peaceful, peaceful. So one way of telling is, you know, people around you. So sometimes, in fact, lojong is best for quote-unquote ordinary people. So not so good for aliens. I mean monks and nuns. Because monks and nuns, you know, when people are around them, they tend to behave themselves. So monks and nuns, you know, live like they're in a pure land everywhere they go. People are so nice to them, you know. Then when they're gone, right, these people are rotten. So lay people have more chances of transforming and training their minds. Because nobody pretends around them. And nobody will say, oh, I'm going to be my best behavior before I go see him or her. But if you're in a religious life, you know, everybody who comes to you, they're like, you know, it's like you're a dentist and they're your patient, right? Normally, don't brush teeth. Time to go see the dentist for 3 days, you know? Which is completely crazy. Right? I mean, I hear people say, you know, oh, I'm going to have my cholesterol tested, so I stop eating char kway teow for 1 month. But that's not a true measure of your health because, you know, you have just produced false results. So we have lots of opportunities to see if, you know, our Dharma practice, is it working or not? Because people will tell us. You're still unreasonable. So, okay, more work to do. You're still very irritable. Okay, more work to do. So it's very practical. It's very ridiculous what it tells you to do, but it's also very practical. So, sorry to disappoint you, no magic here. There's no magical things described in this 7-point mind training. Not only no magical things, not even like special feeling. Heat, I see light. Amma came last night, I think. Nothing like that. Instead, it has things like, don't wait in ambush. Don't strike at weaknesses. Don't try to be the fastest. Don't act with a twisted motive. Don't seek pain as a condition for happiness. Don't make a fuss. Don't be caught up in irritation. Don't be temperamental. Don't expect to be rewarded. Simple words like that. And it said that you should try to memorize these slogans. You can call them slogans. Don't make a fuss. Don't wait to be rewarded. Don't misapprehend. Don't wait in ambush. Don't strike at weaknesses. Very simple lines like that. On Wednesday, we will cover the second point, which is the training in the two bodhicitta. The first bodhicitta is the ultimate bodhicitta, which is the training in wisdom. And the second bodhicitta is the relative bodhicitta, which is the training in compassion. But what makes, the title radical compassion, the radical part is the wisdom part, and the compassion part is, the compassion part. It's radical because it changes the way you normally look at things. So one of the recommendations for the training in wisdom is, tonight, as you are falling asleep, you say, soon I'm going to wake up. Then when you wake up the next morning, tomorrow morning, and you say, now I have just entered a dream. Exactly. You heard what I said. Huh? Yes. When you go to bed tonight, think, now I am actually sleeping, and now I am going to wake up very soon. And so if you have enough awareness, when you enter your so-called dream state, you say, now this is for real. But most of us don't have that ability. Then, at least when you wake up the next morning, you say, okay, now I have just, passed through deep sleep. Now I'm entering the dream state. Just for one day. Secretly, again, don't tell anyone. Secretly. If your wife or husband is here with you tonight, you can say, no, I'm not practicing tomorrow. Then secretly, you practice thinking, this is a dream. So just for one day, other people will probably sense that you're a little bit weird today. But that's okay, just one day. You just walk around thinking, this is all a dream. This is all a dream. Dream, 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 dream. Just for one day. If you do that, I can guarantee you on Wednesdays, we have a lot of stories to tell. Don't do this while you're driving. If you're taking the bus, that's okay. Dream, 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 dream. If you're driving the bus, don't. Especially if you're driving a bus. Yeah, lojong training. This training in, because the first line, regard all phenomena as dreams. Consider all phenomena is the word we use to translate dharma or dhamma. And not with a capital D as in Buddha's teachings, but phenomena, happening. But a better word for phenomena, not so literally it is phenomena. But I think a better word that conveys more directly what we're talking about here is regard all experiences as dreams. Phenomena is a little bit too abstract, right? Too philosophical. It's Buddhist jargon. Right? Outside the context of Buddhist, I'm pretty sure you don't use the word phenomena. Phenomena. Yeah, try using that word at work. People look at you funny. Phenomena, what are you talking about? But experience is what it's really talking about. Experience. Here, experience not in the sense of something that has happened in the past, experience, and not like I remember that when we were looking for the word to translate in Chinese, it's not 经验. Yeah, it's not experience in that sense, like, something that happened in the past. But each experience, 体验, yeah. So not, not experience as in 经验, but 体验. So every experience, regard that, consider that as a dream. And so that's the first, and then we can talk about. This section's second point, the first part is ultimate bodhicitta. Second part is relative bodhicitta. Then each of those parts, it is divided into meditation and post-meditation. Meaning in a formal meditation session, you should do these things. Then when you're done with the formal meditation and you get up to go do whatever else you do after meditation, that's the post-meditation state. Then how should you conduct yourself? Both of these gives you those two parts. So this second point is said to be the main practice. And the third point is about how do you take adversities. And that means all the things that you don't want, but they still keep turning up at your doorstep. How do you turn that into things that will aid you, that will support you in your process of awakening? And another word for path, better than path, again, I think that's kind of like Buddhist jargon, Buddhist vocabulary that sometimes we use a lot, but we don't really know what it means, and we don't know how to explain to other people what it means. Path. You're like, what path? You mean the road? No. Then what? I remember there's this funny story. When we were in the graduate school learning how to read Buddhist Chinese, classical Buddhist Chinese, and translate into English, Not in my class, but in another class, the professor said there was a new student from mainland China. He decided to take the class on reading Chinese Buddhist because he thought it would be easy for him. He was actually not in that department. He just needed another class to fill up his schedule. So he thought, oh, I'll take Buddhist Chinese, you know. But of course, you know, Buddhist Chinese is not regular Chinese, right? So for those of you who know Chinese, this is really funny. The word, the phrase that he was going to translate, xiu dao, right? Xiu dao. You know what he thought it was? Xiu li dao lu. Repairing the road. Xiu dao means to cultivate, you know, to practice. But he doesn't know any Buddhist Chinese. He thought xiu li dao lu. So sometimes we use the word path, dao, 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 a lot, you know, and we don't know what it means. A better word is process. We all go through a process of awakening to become awakened. It's a process. Yeah? So how do we take difficult things and make them part of this process of waking up? That's the third point. The fourth point is a summary of, you know, if you want to condense what does the process involve, it involves 5 things. 5 things that you do consistently within your life, and then at the time of death, you also apply these 5 things. That's 4th point. 5th point, presentation of the measure of having trained the mind. So, if you want to know how well your mind training is going, check using these things. Then the 5th, 6th point, what are the commitments? The 6th and the 7th are very similar. The 7th is called the precepts of mind training. So the commitments and the precepts of mind training. So there, the 6 and 7 are what you can call nuts and bolts of the whole process. Very direct. And very simple, direct, but very effective things that we should do. It says, like for example, always meditate on what aggravates you. Normally we say, please go away, whatever aggravates me. Here it says, always meditate on what aggravates you. Counterintuitive. You say, I meditate to relax. No, you should meditate on your boss. He says, do that. We have run out of time. I don't want to keep you here. Also, the temple needs to close. Quickly, maybe one, and then we have to xiu da. Maybe one. Oh, you can ask 2. I can only answer 1.
Okay.
Second one we can answer tomorrow, maybe. Yes.
And Dr. Lye, are you actually applying the principles of cognitive behavior therapy in the practice itself as a way of promoting mental health?
Maybe.
I see. My second question, if you don't mind,
I
just
will,
one,
I will go to
please.
ask you at day 4. You have to answer that question that you just asked, because obviously you know what you're talking about, so you tell me in day 4 whether I'm doing that or not. Okay, good. Now second question.
Second question, is this lojong practice sort of a tantra practice in a way, in some remote way? Tantra, Varana practice in some remote way?
Yeah, Vajrayana is, kind of.
Particularly and specifically the lojong practice.
Yeah,
I'm referring about.
I know. Vajrayana practice is a little bit fancy.
But is it a part of Tantra practice itself? Specifically in some remote way?
Yeah, maybe.
I see. Thank you very much, Mr. Lye.
Yeah, sure.
Dr. Lye, please. Thank you.
You're a doctor.
Sorry.
It is related to Vajrayana, but it's not like explicitly Vajrayana at all. It's just general Mahayana teachings. And I find much more suitable for everyone. Yeah. There are some dangers, and we'll talk about, of mispracticing this. If you don't practice this right, then you achieve the level of a very special level. Not bodhisattva, not arhat. Doormat. Everybody wipe their feet on you. Yeah, so sometimes that can happen. Yeah, so we have to approach this carefully. But it's very practical, I think, really. If you don't have time to do retreats and all of that, just keep coming back to lojong. Can. Like pasar malam bekoyo guy. We'll see, right? We'll see. Then it's your karma. We are Buddhists. We believe in that. So, at the end, we should dedicate merit. We are so used to dedicating merit by chanting a whole bunch of stuff. No need to do that. Okay, so now think. Yeah, whatever good, whatever power, however you think of power, whatever merit, however you think of merit, whatever benefit that you might have gained from being here, from staying awake, from not complaining too much, from understanding some things, whatever it is, instead of thinking that the benefit that you have gained, you're going to keep for yourself, now give it away. Give it to the universal bank, the banking in which all beings are able to withdraw from whenever and wherever they need it, in order to free them from confusion and suffering. And in your mind, invite all beings to rejoice in this, and invite them and give them permission to join in your merit making. Good night.